You are now tuned into the Clout101 Marketing Podcast.
Do anything for clout.
Dissecting the marketing strategies behind the most influential people, brands, and moments in culture.
Whole lot of people need to hear this.
Today is your day.
Power your hustle with the Clout101 Marketing Podcast.
Hey guys, it's Chizzy Drew here.
This is your girl Chanel, and you are now tuned into
Clout101.
Clout101 Podcast.
And now your host, Idia Ogala.
Welcome to the Clout101 Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Idia Ogala. On Clout101, we talk to some of the most successful people across different industries and decode the marketing strategies behind some of the most iconic brands, campaigns, and moments in culture. On today's episode, we talk to a very, very amazing guest. This is actually one of my favorite episodes to date that I've recorded, so I'm happy that you guys are listening. Ruby is a 23-year-old serial entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and wealth educator. She provides content, courses, tools, and resources for Millennials and Gen Z to accelerate their financial, academic, and personal goals. She began her career creating YouTube content at age 19 and has since grown her channel to over 200,000 subscribers and 6 million views. Leveraging this notoriety, Ruby launched the Lavish Life Academic Planner, designed specifically for college students, and sold over 20,000 copies worldwide. In April of 2020, in the middle of the global pandemic, Ruby established Lavish Life Academy, or LLA, which offers trading, business courses, and mentorship for Gen Z and Millennials. And in less than 9 months, she was able to amass nearly 8,000 members from 72 countries around the world. Her story has been featured in major publications like Business Insider, Entrepreneur, CNBC, and Disrupt, and she's spoken at over 50 different colleges, including NYU, Yale, and Howard University. On this episode, we discuss how she built her online community. We talk about some key marketing tips for leveraging attention. We also talk about making her first million in the middle of a pandemic, but also about how to operate a business with purpose beyond dollars, and what it looks like to build a bulletproof legacy for years to come. So this episode is really dope. I'm excited you guys are able to listen to it. And we just ask that on top of, showing love and showing appreciation for this conversation, we also ask that you head over to Apple and that you rate and review this podcast. If you can give us 5 stars, that would be amazing. It does very, very well for our discoverability of this platform. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy. So the first question, right, is very, very self-explanatory. Who is Ruby? Tell me a little bit about yourself, because from our limited research, it seems like there's a lot that's there, from your time in college, your entrepreneurial journey, obviously being a first-generation Nigerian, first daughter, child of an immigrant family. I'm sure there's a lot that kind of went into the journey to allow you to become who you are today. So just tell me about yourself and tell me about your upbringing and how it contributed to where you are today.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I never really thought about everything. I feel like anytime somebody asks me this, I always think about the present time. But yeah, so I'm 23. I am a serial entrepreneur, motivational speaker, YouTuber, investor, trader. I run my academy. But coming up, I was, of course, the first of 5. I played college basketball and basketball throughout my entire childhood into college. I was always a very enthusiastic person about life in general. So I was always in a whole bunch of different things, debate. I was in a whole bunch of different clubs. I learned multiple different languages when I was growing up. I was, on the diving team in elementary school and middle school. So I had a lot going on throughout my entire childhood. Elementary school, middle school, high school, university. Yeah, so I did a lot growing up, and I feel like that's definitely helped me with just being able to manage a lot at my current stage, because I still do a lot of different things. I've been able to meet different people, learn different things. I'm definitely somebody that likes to learn. I think that's one thing that I can credit myself to, that I'll always put myself in a position to learn something new just for the benefit of learning that new thing. But overall, I'm just somebody that is excited about life and wants to do a whole bunch of different things and tries my best to do it.
You said a lot of things. I think wanting to expand your mind is unique. That's the first step towards success, to welcome different things that come your way. So I think that that's dope. You mentioned being a first of five.
Yes, first of five.
That's crazy, but also that lends, I guess, credence to leadership skills. You probably were, kind of amassing that, like, without realizing that you were doing that, which probably contributes to how you're able to lead teams today and be seen in that light today. So obviously, I touched on it earlier, first generation Nigerian. I'm Nigerian as well. I understand the hustle and the grind and what's instilled in you.
Part of growing up, right?
Of course. So talk about that a little bit for people who maybe don't understand what comes with the territory of being Nigerian, of being a first generation, person here in the States, and maybe some pressures that come along with that, but also some of the positives that you think have contributed to where you are today.
Yeah, I definitely do credit my parents a lot. My parents definitely pushed me, as well as all of my siblings, for the route of education. And I think that's what really bred my love for learning. We've always been like a household that, excellence is like mandatory, whereas there's no in between. It's either you're doing extremely well. If you're only doing good, that's not good enough, So I think that's a huge part of who I am today. I feel like that's a lot of what I exude into the people that are around me as well. I think that's why people gravitate towards me, especially with my academy right now, because a lot of the stuff that I do teach comes down to how I was able to learn. Even my YouTube channel, I taught a lot of the stuff that my parents taught me growing up when it comes to education, studying all the time, making sure that you put your being ahead in your schoolwork. My YouTube channel was strictly on college life altogether, and people were very curious to how I was able to balance being a college basketball player, doing a whole bunch of different things like entrepreneurship, and still getting a 4.0 in my biomedicine classes, So it comes down to the values that were instilled into me when I was a child, So I definitely do credit my parents for that. But also, it's a lot of pressure, being the first of five. I have a sister that's 18 months younger than me. I have a brother that's, and they're all doing amazing. My brother's 20 years old. My sister's 21. I'm 23. Then I have two younger siblings. And overall, they're all doing amazing. But if anything came out of line, the first person that they're going to look at is why did, Ruby's the reason. If Ron is doing, my 12-year-old brother is not doing well in school, what did Ruby do at this time? If I was not in the right course, I would have been the blame, So I always knew that in the back of my head, I have to do well, not only for myself, but because I have 4 other siblings behind me. So I definitely do credit that as well, just being the oldest child of 5, having to be a leader in many different aspects overall growing up.
Yeah. You also touched on the student athlete life, right? So how many years did you play basketball in college?
So I played basketball my freshman and sophomore year. I actually tore my ACL for the 3rd time my sophomore year of college. So I think my resilience definitely comes down to getting injured so many times and having to go through that recovery process and going through, of course, physical therapy, but that, first time back on the court feeling after going through all of that. But I started playing basketball when I was in 7th grade, and I played all the way up until my sophomore year of college. And yeah, I tore my ACL the first time 10th grade. 10th grade, I tore my ACL. Then I got recruited into this prep basketball high school that was number 1 in the country. Shout out to Lehigh. But I went to Lehigh for a year, tore my ACL my senior year of college, and that messed up a lot of stuff for me. And then I was I still want to play. Went back to college, or went to college, played basketball for 2 years, and then I tore my ACL the last game of my sophomore year, and that was the end of my journey in basketball altogether.
But it seems like that was a blessing. I mean, listen, I get it. I didn't get a chance to play in college. I didn't make it. I feel like my journey, very, very quickly, I learned that basketball in college wasn't a thing for me. So high school was the ending point. And that's when I pivoted to marketing, was able to make it to the league on the business side. But I don't know. I kind of look at it, and everyone that I've spoken to, all the former athletes I've spoken to, former ball players who ended up working at the league office, they all would mention those traumatic injuries as a blessing in disguise, a turning point in their life where they were able to maybe dedicate more time towards refining another craft, or maybe being a source of inspiration for people who are also going through these traumatic injuries now at a younger age, and they're trying to figure out how to make it through, how to persevere to get back on the court. So looking back at that situation, how do you think that that's contributed to who you are today?
Yeah, I think that definitely basketball is like, I think all basketball, I gravitate towards athletes a lot. Like, I feel like we definitely have a different way of thinking because we do so much. Like, even in high school, like waking up at 5 a.m., we would have 5 a.m. practices in high school. And my high school was like an hour away. Practice before having school all day, then having, workouts afterwards. Like, there's a whole different, perspective of life that you have to have as an athlete because you're seeing a whole different picture than what you see day to day. So I think that's a huge part of how I became who I am today. Not only that, but even in college, I think that my entrepreneurship definitely stemmed from the fact that we had so much time put strictly on basketball that I didn't have time to even get a job. So my freshman and sophomore year, I didn't have time to get a job because we were on the road on the weekends. We would have 5 a.m. practices. And then afterwards we're, in class all day, then having to, do study hall and all this stuff. So it's not even a thing that we had an opportunity to get a job. So with that, I had to figure out other ways to make money because, I had a lifestyle to uphold. So, that's how my first business started. And that's really where my head space came from with entrepreneurship, like knowing like, okay, I only have time, like specific times throughout the week. How can I make the best use of it? How can I make the most money during this specific time?
Yeah. So you were a med student, correct?
Yeah, biomedicine.
Okay. So biomed student, obviously student athlete, rigorous schedule. So obviously the time that you do have to be able to create that, I guess, stream of income for yourself is very limited. So what idea did you want to dedicate your time to? What was that thing that kind of, sparked in your brain that said, hey, this is something I want to focus my energy on, given my limited time?
You're asking like why I decided to do entrepreneurship?
No, like what was the first idea that pretty much that you said, all right, cool. I only have 2 hours a day. Like I want to focus my 2 hours on this specific idea. What was that idea?
Yeah. So I started my YouTube channel while I was still playing basketball. So I was able to kind of build a following based on just being an athlete and, being a biomedicine student and being able to balance both of it. Overall, people were gravitating towards me because I had a lot on my plate and people would be like, oh, like Ruby's able to do this and this and still do well in school. I'm only doing this and I'm not doing well in school. So I'm going to look at Ruby for motivation, So I was already documenting my day-to-day life and I was able to kind of build some type of audience around that. And my first business was called Lavish Life Accessories. And I was selling sunglasses and a whole bunch of just like different accessories. It was a very like small business, but I had fun doing it. It was my first like idea overall because I got the idea of just being able to buy stuff in bulk and just selling it for more money. And that was like my first business.
And who put you on to that idea? Where'd you get that from?
It was just, I don't even know. I think I probably like got the idea from like YouTube or something. I'm still very big on YouTube, but I would just see what other people do and try and implement it myself. Like if they can do it, I could do it too type of mindset.
So I'd imagine that business is what led to, the interest in expanding and trying different things, right? So at what point did you realize that you were really building a community of people that rock with you, love what you were, giving them in terms of information, in terms of value, and will be willing to purchase from you?
Yeah. So my first like really big business that stemmed from like social media overall is my Lavish Life Academic Planner line. So I created a planner line my sophomore year of college. I kind of fleshed out the idea of it. My junior year of college is when it actually launched, but the theme of being able to balance life altogether kept circling over and over again. I started getting speaking engagements. I would show like physically what I used to balance or to organize or to schedule out my day. And it was a bullet journal that I was using. So just like a blank notebook. I created the pages. I created exactly what I wanted in the blank notebook. And people were asking for me to create for themselves. Like they wanted me to like replicate the process for them. And immediately I said, I'm not doing it. Like I don't even like doing it for myself.
Yeah.
I was like, this is too much work. But overall, I couldn't really find a planner that I personally really liked enough to want to use. So I just made it myself. And once I posted my first like video, like walking through my planner, it was something very simple, like a 10-minute video just walking through the pages of the video of my bullet journal. That video ended up doing really, really well at the time of my YouTube channel. And I stemmed the idea of actually creating a planner during my spring break of my sophomore year. And by the end of the spring break, like I had the idea at the beginning, by the end, I already knew exactly who I was going to reach out to for manufacturing, the production, the design, all of that stuff. I basically thought about myself. I didn't hire anybody throughout the entire process. I created a plan for myself, a business plan. And by that summer, I already had it created. So it was definitely a process, but that was like the first major like 6-figure business idea that I was able to create.
So you identified that there was a need, right, based on what you needed for yourself to be able to sustain, but also based off of what other people were, bothering you about, trying to figure out how they can learn from you. And then you took that to help build out, you set the business plan and just figure out what your strategy was going to be. Who was supporting you on this journey? Was it you by yourself? Were you tapping into friends to be able to create this? What was that like in terms of getting it from zero to, production?
Yeah. So with me, anytime I think of anything, like any of my ideas, I really keep it to myself for a long time until it's actually done. I did the same thing with my YouTube channel. Like when I started my YouTube, it wasn't really a known thing. Like I didn't tell my parents, I didn't tell my friends. I was blogging every single day in school, but everybody thought it was like Snapchat that I was using because it just wasn't a popular thing. And I'm not somebody that likes to ask for help or to ask for like, follow me or subscribe to me on here. I didn't even post about my YouTube channel until I hit around 10,000 subscribers. And I posted, I'm so grateful for all of my subscribers and they were already following me on my Instagram after they subscribed to me on YouTube type of thing. But when it came to my planner line, it was very similar. I had the idea. I really did all the work myself. I used money from my savings from like my YouTube channel and stuff like that to fund the planner line. It was around $10,000 to start. So I know that if I had told my parents at like 19 years old that I was putting all this money aside to start a planner line, that isn't really common. I feel like planners are becoming like stationery is becoming common now where people just, are starting it up on their own. But at that time, I didn't know anyone else that had a planner line. I was confident in myself, but I knew that nobody else would be confident enough in me to want to help me with that. So I really just kept it to myself until I started getting the actual inventory. And because it was coming to my house, I had to kind of let my parents know a week before, like, UPS is coming with, 72 boxes of planners.
72 boxes. That's crazy.
Yeah. And we also we didn't even have a space for it. So we were keeping it outside in our backyard under like a shed. And we were just, shipping orders in the house, like from that point. But afterwards, people are always supportive when stuff is going good. So I really only show the good for real. So that's just the way that I go about doing things.
So how much of your marketing, I guess, approach to getting these planners sold, how much of it was, I'm going to lay low on the planner side, right, and strategize that out? I'm going to keep posting daily content on my YouTube to grow that following, and then literally just like cross promote those planners to the people on YouTube. How much of it was that versus like, I'm actually going to sit down and map out like a marketing strategy and try to go on social media and find new people? Was it mostly selling to that existing audience that you were generating from YouTube? Or did you have like a dual approach to do it with the YouTube folks, but also try and reach out to new audience members that you weren't communicating with at the time?
Yeah. So the first year, so I'm going into my third year of the planner line. My first year, it was solely content marketing. I wasn't even thinking about marketing in general. I just wanted to create it and sell it. That was just my whole idea. And I learned a lot on the way. Like I went to school for biomedicine. I didn't go to school for marketing or business or anything like that. So I would Google a lot. My marketing approach, looking back at that time, was solely content marketing. It was like Gary Vee's approach where it's like documentation, like documenting your entire process, and people will gravitate towards you because of that. So I've always been a very genuine person. I've always gave before I asked for anything in return. I don't really know how to explain like people that are like salesmen. Like I'm not that type of person. I'll talk about myself for a couple of minutes. I'll say what I have to say. I know how to say it the right way to want people to want to buy from me or to benefit off of whatever it is that I'm doing. But I'm never going to say, you need to do this, this, and this, or, this is the best thing out there. I'll tell you how it worked for me. I'll tell you how it worked for other people. But at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to figure out if it's of your best interest. it wasn't until the next year that I really honed down and really understood that if I was able to sell this amount of planners by myself off of just my audience, all I need is, 2, 3, 4 more. And it's 2, 3, 4 times the amount revenue. So I think the next year I really focused more so on like influencer marketing. This till now I haven't spent a dime on like ad spend or like ad spend in general for this business or Lavish Life Academy. I focus more on the ad spend I have a couple of drop shipping businesses. Those are only businesses that I use ad spend for, or Facebook ads, Instagram ads in general. Everything else is more so just word of mouth and just the fact that people like what I do.
Yeah. So if you would adjust your approach for, let's say, for the new year, is there anything that would you dive more into ads for the planner business, or would you kind of add more money to the influencer marketing strategy? That's question number one. And then two, which influencers were you tapping into date, to be able to, kind of sell the planner product?
So I would definitely, moving forward, because I've always been an influencer, or not always, but since I've started business, I've been an influencer.
Since birth.
Since Earth existed. Since the beginning of my business entrepreneurship journey, I've always been an influencer. So I know the power that influencers have if you pick the right one. So I'm definitely going to stay in the route of influencer marketing because I know that the power that they do have in regards to all of that stuff. I think it really comes down to the business itself. When you're doing more of a one-on-one interaction with people, or you're trying to sell based on a specific thing, you want to make sure that the audience itself has a connection with you. And it's hard to have that connection based on a Facebook ad or Instagram ad when they can go to anywhere to learn this information, whether for Lavish Life Academy, or I can go to Staples and buy this planner. There's specific wording that influencers use, and I've been able to really learn and actually have in my influencer contracts to make sure that the point is coming across. People are not going to watch the video and say, I don't think that this planner is going to be good for me, after the influencer is saying exactly what I want the influencer to say. So I really think that there's a lot of benefit in influencer marketing if you're doing it the right way. I noticed that as an influencer myself, I'll see specific contracts and I'll see the deliverables and requirements for this price point, and I'll see the same exact price point in a different contract, and they won't have any requirements. At the end of the day, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you can, directly influence exactly what you want as an outcome just by wording and just by visuals, So I think that if you have a good influencer marketing strategy in place, you can really do wonders with the business.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's between influencer marketing and then what you mentioned about documenting your process. I think those are two really, really, I'll say, cost-effective marketing strategies that people should definitely employ. For myself and for the brand that I'm trying to pivot to build, I definitely understand the importance of documenting that, because it builds, trust, it builds social proof, with an audience that cares about what it is that you're trying to, I won't say sell, but what you're trying to project. And then from there, as you mentioned, the sell becomes easy because they rock with you, they trust you. And if you're not selling a lot, then it's like they just say, okay, let me support this person and see what it is. And then the quality of your product, it keeps them coming back. So I like the idea of business planners and academic planners and stuff like that. To be honest, I haven't seen a lot that caters to, our community, or caters to, creatives, or caters to young business professionals. I haven't seen that a lot. So when I definitely learned about your planners, I thought that was really dope. And then also another thing is that it's almost like they say, get into a business that has, reoccurring revenue tied to it, right? So some people are doing tech products where it's monthly subscriptions and stuff like that, where they could charge each year. I think as long as there's high quality in the planner that someone is executing, producing, I'm pretty sure you had a lot of return customers where you don't have to be marketing to new people. You can just pretty much maintain that communication with those people, with the folks that bought it the first time, maybe offer them a slight discount or something along those lines, and be able to bring them back and have that guaranteed money. So what has that been like for you with the reoccurring customers?
Yeah. So when it comes to planner line, my recurring customers are, I forget the exact percentage, but I think that the most important thing when it comes to reoccurring revenue or monthly recurring revenue with Lavish Life Academy is really just the value that you give. I think that because people genuinely like my planner, they're waiting for it before the new year. Like around May, June, I start getting emails and questions, DMs, when's the next planner line coming out? Or when's the next planner? I used it from this point to this point. I was able to do this, and this because of the planner, and because we built a community around it, it's become a thing where, oh, like, I have a planner. Let me get one for my sister, my mom, my brother. You know what I mean? Like, this has helped me so much. Let me make sure that other people can benefit off of it too. So I think that it's very important to build that relationship with your customers and with your audience in general so that you can be reliable. I feel like a lot of people forget that not only, is your business going to have that one sale, but if you can generate a long-lasting relationship with that person, it's not only that one sale now. It's now that one sale plus next year's, plus every single other person that they tell about that product or service, whatever the case may be. So I really, really, really put relationships in the forefront as well as customer service because all you need is one person, right? And that stems off of it. Like, I think that's what really grew my academy to where it is now. I haven't even used any influencers for Lavish Life Academy. I haven't used a dime of marketing, not one dime.
You have influencers inside of it, but you don't have them promoting it on the outside.
Exactly.
I saw your post the other day.
Yeah, I have influencers in the program. I have a whole bunch of different people, but I've never asked for anything. So I don't even have. I wanted my program to be genuine, where people have the safe space of understanding that everybody in here is in here because they're doing the same thing, and they're not here because they want to make money on the side by recruiting or make money on the side by referrals. I don't want anyone to think that if they're talking about Lavish Life Academy, there's any other hidden agenda besides the fact that this program has helped me. And I've seen so much growth with Lavish Life Academy just off of that one thing, because it's very easy to have a referral program. It's very easy to have like anything else tied to it, especially if the program is doing well. But I think because I completely separated that from my program altogether, I can have that genuine relationship with my audience and with people that are soon to be my audience to understand that everything that's being posted is being posted from their free will. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's definitely key, just building the relationships and giving really high value, and everything else will come and fall into place afterwards.
Mm-hmm. So before we pivot to the academy, just a quick follow-up, because you mentioned the importance of, retaining customers, communicating with customers, customer service. What's your process of, obviously in marketing, I understand the value of email marketing, collecting data, things like that. I'd imagine in your checkout process, you have those opportunities, those like access points to get first name, last name, email address, whatever the case may be. But what's your process of like storing that data? Do you have like a communication cadence, like a newsletter or, email sequence or whatever? Like, how do you engage with them throughout the year so that by the time, December, November comes around, that they're looking to go cop your next planner for 2021?
Mm-hmm. So we basically focus on community engagement. I have a series on that I do like a couple of times throughout the year where I'll go on live, or I'll have this semester we had a couple of my interns go on live about specific topics, just pouring value. So that's one way that we go about doing it. We have blog posts, we have newsletters. We have a good amount of people on our newsletter list based off of just understanding that they'll be able to get some type of value from it. I also have landing pages that are on my YouTube video. So if I'm talking about a specific topic that I know will be able to help, will kind of correspond with the audience from my planner line, I would typically have a link where they fill out a form in order for them to get that specific content or whatever it is that I'm talking about in a video, and they're automatically added to my newsletter list. We also have text message marketing that we use as well. We started it a little bit earlier on, but I kind of like fell off of it. But overall, I feel like text message marketing is definitely going to give a much higher return than email marketing if we use it the right way. It's just really finding the right platform that you can get, because you can easily put your number on like your story or something, but you want to make sure that the amount of money you're paying per contact is actually, transferring. You don't want to just have a whole bunch of people that have your, text message number or whatever.
Which platforms are you using? Community, Superphone,
Yeah,
anything else?
I use Community, and for newsletters, I use MailChimp. We're trying to switch over to ConvertKit, though. We're just trying to figure out the best way to go about doing that. But overall, it really comes down to like having a nurture system for your audience and just making sure that you're able to give value so that they stay on your newsletter list until it's time for you to sell.
Yes, 100%. How many business interviews have you done to date?
I don't even know, to be honest. I do a lot of like small ones. Like I don't post a lot. Like I'm really, really, that's like part of my marketing plan for next year, 2021, just being able to document more. I'm actually putting somebody on my team for that because I do so much stuff. I think today's December 10th. I did 2 other podcasts already this month. And then I work with Business Insider a lot. I did an interview with Facebook last month for their Black Friday series, Gabrielle Union.
Okay.
I'm out here working.
Okay.
I'm doing an interview with Kajabi next week. It's a lot, but I just don't do well with like recording and like showing behind the scenes. Just 'cause I'm like I really don't care too much anymore as I used to. I'm more so just about like business for real. Like I just want to make sure that I'm giving the value to my paying customers and like people in Lavish Life Academy because there's so many of them that Instagram and like YouTube. I don't really care about that. Like I've been on YouTube in like 3 months.
But you got to get someone, as you mentioned, you got to get someone to follow you around and just do it for you. I'm telling you, that's the way. That's the way to go. Because you're right. Because you started by building this business by documenting everything. Right. You don't want to lose sight of that. So you hustle. You put your brains and your energy behind the strategy because that's obviously you're smart and that's what's paying the bills. But yeah, you definitely need someone to just follow you and then develop a process. Like, all right, you're the editor, you're the person managing my content calendar, and then like go ahead. Y'all propose stuff to me, I sign off on it, and we post. And that's it.
I definitely agree. I think I got too comfortable with not posting and seeing because it's my businesses Lavish Life Academy is like recurring. You know what I mean? Like people once they join, they're probably not going to leave just because the program is that good. Not to toot my own horn, but
listen,
my churn rate is very, very, very low. So I don't really worry too much. Once I get those people that join, I'm basically set. But I have to also realize that there's so much more that I could be doing. Like I don't want to ever get to a point where I'm too comfortable because I've never ever been comfortable. But I'm definitely going to work on building like a media team in general, or even like just starting off with a media assistant that focuses solely on just YouTube content and Instagram content. And then from that point, I'll be able to use that as also content marketing because I noticed a huge difference between the 1 month that I did post like a couple of months ago compared to now. I only posted 1 video that month. I think it got over, I think it's almost like 200,000 views, but that's all, that's like free advertisement. And I'm also getting paid from the YouTube video itself. I just have to be able to post a little bit more,
Yeah, you should even I don't know if you do this already, but like a Q&A or like a, I don't know, interview series with members of the academy that you post on your YouTube and on your Instagram and just use as you mentioned, as ads to be able to, because if you know the product is good and you're focusing your energy on the product, as long as you have enough people coming through to check out what you're doing, they're going to stay because you're dope. So they're going to stay for that. And then if they enroll, then you have them in that cycle. So I definitely think that you're at the point where scaling is dependent on what you're posting. And then that will allow you to save money on the ads because, the ads can get expensive. If you just reinvest that money into content production, then you should be fine. You should be fine.
Yeah. I definitely, that's part of like what we were initially going to do, like something like the EYL, like Earn Your Leisure.
Earn Your Leisure, yeah.
People on, but I don't know. I just been very thrown off with just even showing. Like I don't even post myself on my page no more. I don't know. So what we're doing was we have like this thing that we're going to start up called Testimonial Tuesday, and people will be able to like send a video in of their actual like video testimonial, and we'll be able to post it on the Instagram page. But I was initially going to do the face-to-face like type of thing, and then I realized like if I put that on myself, it's just never going to happen because I'm not going to want to do it. So I don't want to even mess up the business, like the marketing strategy by relying on myself to do anything at this point.
I feel you. I understand. I get it. But I know you'll be fine. I know you'll figure it out. All right. So I want to pivot into the academy. I think that's very, very interesting. So I just want to set the stage. You had the planners. The planners were popping. Your YouTube obviously was doing well and everything. So what inspired you to pivot into the academy?
Okay, so my YouTube channel, I think like back in end of 2018, beginning of 2019, I started a Money Monday series on my channel where I would just teach people that were around my age, like say people that were watching my college related videos. I wanted to show them more about how to, level up in their finances, because a lot of the stuff that, I had to learn myself. My parents really, we're very independent in my household. Like we really don't talk about anything that's not related to education. So,
Yeah.
so when it came to like finances and stuff like that, as I was growing up in college, I realized that I don't have a big sister. Like I'm literally the big sister, so I had to learn everything for myself. And I wanted to be that person to be able to help other people that also don't have anyone else to lean towards. You know what I mean? So when it came to the stuff that I was learning, I had to actively go out and learn from YouTube or Google, how to build my credit, how to, get your first credit card, like a whole bunch of stuff that, some families might have instilled into them, like as soon as they hit 18, it's like, oh, like, this weekend we're going to go and get your credit card. That was never a thing. With me, my parents didn't even want any of their kids working until they got a job after graduation. So my parents they really didn't focus too much on the financial aspect of college life. They really wanted us to more so rely on them, which was completely fine. They wanted us to focus on education. They didn't want me to, work or anything. But at the same time, it's like, y'all don't know what we do in college. Like the $200 you're trying to give me a month is not going to cut it anymore. Like that's high school stuff. So I had to really figure it out on my own. And as I was doing that, I came across a whole bunch of a whole different niche on YouTube. And once I started getting into that content, I realized that no one is like, our community is not going to really watch this unless they actively want to watch it. So if I'm already giving out content and I already have a following based on whatever it is that I'm doing, the people that are watching me aren't the people that are watching these people. So I can really just make the content that I personally like or learn and just teach to other people. So that's how the Money Monday series came about. I would start, I made videos on how to make money from home, how to make money from your phone, how to invest, how to build credit, how to budget. A lot of stuff that people genuinely just don't know because they don't learn in school. I just wanted to be able to give it out to people for free, like, actual content in general. Lavish Life Academy came about because I wanted to give like that one extra step. It started off with one-on-one mentorship with people that wanted to start their own businesses. So I started doing one-on-one calls with people for an hour. And there was a set syllabus that I would use depending on if they wanted to start a business, if they wanted to learn about marketing in general, if they wanted to. I also had like an Instagram, like YouTube, social media growth one-on-one available, and then how to run your business. So the tools and systems I put in place to run my own business like seamlessly. I would have different one-on-ones people were able to book, but during quarantine, it became a little out of hand because everybody was home and everybody wanted to get the one-on-one. So I was looking at my schedule one day and I'm like, bro, like I'm really doing the same syllabus calls on these 4 different topics 6-7 times a day. Like I was making the money from it and I was like giving the value, but I realized that I could only do so much a day and so many more people are interested in it. And then I came across the whole course aspect and stuff like that, and actually building a group mentorship instead of having the one-on-one interactions with people. So I started planning out how I would be able to do a group mentorship instead of just doing the one-on-ones. And that was all for business. And then I also realized that a lot of the members or a lot of the people that were reaching out to me, they didn't have income in general. Like they're trying to start a business out of nothing, So one thing that my sister actually asked me to help her with was to start trading, because I started trading like a while ago. So that was just something that I learned because I just wanted to learn before it became very like mainstream. Like people talk about it a lot more on social media. There might be a negative connotation to in some world of investing, financial literacy and stuff like that. But there's a whole nother world that people just aren't tapped into because they just didn't have the opportunity to. So I learned about trading before it became mainstream. I actually have it in my sophomore year blog. The same year that I was learning about the business, like the planner business, I actually had 2 one-on-one scheduled for learning how to trade. And this was before like anybody was really doing it for real, for real. So my sister asked me she said that she wanted to start trading because she started getting her unemployment checks. And she was like, I need to do something with this, you know? So I taught her how to buy a couple of stocks on Robinhood. And then I taught her how to also trade. And she loved the trading aspect so much. And because I'm older sibling, you're generally forced to be able to teach people, especially younger people, how to learn things the easiest way possible. That's what I've been doing since, I was in high school trying to teach people like my siblings in middle school. So I'm naturally good at teaching because I've had to do it my whole life. So when my sister came up to me wanting to learn how to trade, I was able to kind of give her like the full process from like the beginner to like the little advanced area. And she actually is the one who gave me the idea to be able to teach other people. So once I started Lavish Life Academy, I kind of created 2 different directions, one just for entrepreneurship and one for Forex trading. And the Forex trading one took off. Like people were genuinely interested. And I actually give credit to all the other programs that did people wrong because they knew exactly what they didn't want and I knew exactly what they didn't want also. So I was able to really focus on those different aspects and just focusing on teaching people how to trade overall. And because it's actually a great stream to fall into. And because you can start off with such a small amount of money, it was something that people were attracted to, especially during quarantine. They had unemployment checks coming in. They had the time to learn. So during that time period is when it really took off. I started it in end of April, like during quarantine. I spent like a month planning it all out. End of April, I launched it. 100 people joined the first day of the program, which was crazy. Yeah. And, if you know about Kajabi, the price point for that website is a little hefty. So I was when I first was trying to figure out like what platform to use, I was nervous because I'm like, what if enough people don't join? Like what if I can't make that money back from that one-time fee of like $1,000+ for Kajabi? But I was able to get 100 people to join the first day. And that was just strictly off of me posting on my stories. I'd even posted on like my actual feed. And from that point on, it just continued to grow from there. And it's more so like a lot of word of mouth. I see a lot of people talking about it, like their experience from it on like Facebook. Like they'll say like, oh, like I just joined this academy today, wish me luck. 2 months later, I'm making so-and-so amount of money. And people really think it's not possible until they see it's possible, and the fact that people know, like in the back of their heads, Ruby doesn't do any referrals. Ruby doesn't do any recruiting or, any type of like marketing like that. They automatically know that it is a genuine review because they don't get anything from talking about it. So that's what I started.
I definitely say well, first of all, congrats. That's amazing. A lot of software, I guess, systems or programs like that a lot of them do the whole referral based thing, and it kind of shoots the credibility because people are making money to drive folks to a specific platform. So I think that's dope that you don't do that. Like again, I can see that raising the credibility of the program and having them trust you more, which will make me more likely to just give you more money. So I think that's important. You mentioned a couple of other things. So you mentioned that you were offering a service that made sense. You were making good money off of it with the one-on-ones. Then you realize that you can't scale by doing, you only have a fixed amount of hours in the day, right? To be able to do these appointments and regurgitate the same information. So you figured out how you can automate that and scale. What went into that beyond just being sick and tired of like having the same conversation over and over again? What else went into that process? And then how did you get to Kajabi as the platform that you wanted to use to be able to execute this program?
Yeah, so it definitely wasn't a lot more. It was really just understanding that I could be doing so much more with my time than doing the same calls over and over again. Initially, I would kind of think about what I'm going to say. And then afterwards, I was like, you know what? I only have 4 different types of calls. I might as well just create a presentation. They're going to be able to, it's an interactive presentation, but it's going to be the same content every time. from that point, I also realized that, there's so many different people that are in different lengths of business, like so many different directions, that there's more I can be doing with them once they actually learn the content first, and then they'll be able to ask the questions later. Because there's no point of me reading through a slide or like a presentation when they can just, watch it on their own time and then ask me the actual questions when they digest the information. So it was really just like a switch of mindset overall of understanding that I can be doing this and this to actually benefit people more than, booking a one-on-one for an hour and then booking a follow-up one-on-one with the next step, afterwards. So that was that. And then also understanding that you can, like you said, scale a lot more when you already have, when it's already automated. If the course is already there, it's already, it's not active income anymore. Now it's passive. I only have to show my face, once a week, 1 hour, instead of having to do 6 hours back to back of one-on-one to make that same amount of money. So that was definitely the starting point. But when it came to picking Kajabi over like Teachable or any of the other platforms, it really came down to doing my own research and just figuring out what would be the best to scale. I looked at people that were in similar places that I am, that are at the level that I want to be at, and really figuring out what they use, because if I'm trying to get there, I have to think like them. I have to use what they're using. I have to figure out why they're using this instead of this. So I do a lot of competition analysis for people that are not within my own range, I would say. I personally like to always, I think it's my parents again, like being African, like you just want to be the best at all things, So in my head, it's like, why would I look at my competition when I can look at people that I know is not my competition in any means, but I'm trying to get there? Why would I look at the ocean when I can look at the stars? So I think that was a huge part in my decision-making process for Kajabi overall. I just saw that was like the most common use based on all the other people that have the community or the platform that I personally have as well.
Yeah. A lot of good things here. So for people listening, I think something that's very important, which I feel has guided you on this journey, is using those initial folks that you were doing the one-on-ones with as like almost like market research. I think that's very important because even when I'm consulting, I see different trends and different pain points that people are complaining about, same questions that they're asking, getting lost at the same point in their process. And I think that's very important, because when you can identify those trends, then you're able to provide solutions that, stretch far and wide. And then that's when you're able to scale appropriately. Because if you're not paying attention to those things, to those pain points, and then figuring out how whatever service you're offering or whatever, product you're offering can help plug some of those holes, then it's hard for you to get to the level that you're at where you're able to scale. And then the other thing is vertical integration. I'm always talking about that. So leveraging one business to be able to kind of cross promote, cross sell, and not have to recreate the wheel. So it seems like, with you and with every other guest that's on this platform, it's like y'all are the CEO of, you're the CEO of Ruby LLC, right? And then from there, making sure that you're good, making sure that you're consistent with the content that you put out, right? To start, that consistency has led to arms coming out from the middle of that LLC, where you're able to do the planners, where you're able to do the academy. I feel like you've built an audience that if you wanted to go and do hair, sell hair next.
I forgot about that business.
Okay.
I had a hair company. My
Gotcha.
hair company started right after the accessories. My hair company what funded my planner line, because hair companies, that's like easy money. I don't discredit that for nothing.
You should definitely think about partnering with another person who can manage the logistics and just be the face of the brand. And then that way you have an extra source of income coming in, and then more data you can use to sell some of your other products. But I just think that that's very important. And I think it all starts with consistency. LeBron says it all the time. He's like, if I'm not great on the court, all these other the $1 billion Nike deal and all these other opportunities that they're not going to, be presented to me if I'm not handling my handles when it comes to what I have to do. So I think that that's something that we all can learn from, business minds and like master marketers like yourself. So I want to talk numbers a little bit. right? Want to flex a little bit. So in terms of the planners and in terms of the academy, can you just tell us like a number of how many planners you've sold like to date, how many members are in your academy, and if you want to talk numbers in terms of how much money you've made in both of those businesses, I think that would be very helpful to let people know how credible you are in case they haven't read something on you online or checked out your social media.
All right. So when it comes to the planner line, I don't know for like a fact how many planners have been sold to date, but I know that based on like the revenue overall, it's around over $500,000 on the planner line. But that's also since 2018 when it launched. So from July 2018 till now, it is over $500,000. For the academy, we have almost 7,000 people in the program. Well, not in the program, that has joined the program since it started in
August. I mean, you said April.
April, yeah. So it's around
7,000 since April.
Yeah, so almost 7,000 since April, and that's all again with no ad spend, no marketing. Literally, I haven't even posted a video about Lavish Life Academy. I've mentioned it in a video. It really came from more so word of mouth and just like our biggest marketing is really just testimonials and the fact that people are getting what they're paying for. They're getting what they're paying for and making the money back almost immediately. So it's like, why not? Like, I might as well just do it if I'm going to make the money back next week type of thing. So with Lavish Life Academy, we're nearing, I have to say that actually, I have to say that. So yeah, I'll just leave it at almost 7,000 members. No, it's because listen, I'm angry, man. I'll like when I tell you. So when I became a millionaire, I really didn't want to post about it at all. Like I'm not somebody that's like showy, pretentious, none of that. I really, I probably posted 6 pictures on Instagram of 2020 altogether. Like I'm just not that type of person. And I don't really say anymore. I just used to do it because I was a quote unquote influencer. Now I'm just really focused on living my life and giving back as much as I can. But when it came to like that millionaire status, because it's so like not common, becoming like a millionaire at 22 or whatever the case may be, I didn't really think of it as that big of a deal at that time because I'm the one that's seeing the numbers every single day. Like I'm seeing $100,000 month, $100,000 week. It's not a big deal to me, but I forget that it's a big deal to other people. Like that, it's a big deal to a normal person, But overall, I hit the millionaire status way earlier on because I don't have just Lavish Life Academy. Like I became a millionaire, a lot earlier on in 2020 altogether. But overall, I really like the numbers really matter, but they really don't at the same time. Because at the end of the day, what are you doing with it? Like, what benefit do you have of saying that you're a millionaire or that you made so and so amount of money? How does that benefit anybody else? Like somebody else might want to become a millionaire too, but that's on them to actually do the work. So I'm really trying not to push that narrative altogether. It's really about what you're doing with it. Even when it comes to Lavish Life Academy as a whole, there are people that are making good money in the program, like, and that's the reason why it's growing so fast. Like we've seen people that made like $100,000 in like 2-3 days. Like I trade live. So I will talk about that as well. So I traded live in my program. I do webinars every single week. My highest profit like in a day has been over $200,000 and people in a day. Yeah.
And that's what investing, how much money for that 200,000?
My account was $4,000. And that more, I think after 2 hours, it was at 40,000. By 1 p.m., it was at 200,000. And that's all live, So at that point, it's like, you can really make as much money as you want in this world. But like, if you're not a balanced person, what's the point? Like what are your real values? And that's what I'm trying to teach my program altogether. Like we're going to make the money. Like there's no doubt about it. We know what we're doing. I don't even see money the same anymore. I can really do whatever I want. I still live at home. I'm 23. I still live at home. I value family and friends because that's what I care about. And I'm at a stage right now also that it's like, we can do all this, but at the end of the day, also like, who are you really trying to impress? Like, it becomes a thing where money becomes status, and that's not what my values are overall. But going back to like the money thing, I think that I personally I used to have goals, like money goals and stuff like that. But once you hit a specific amount, it's almost like the money attracts you. Like the money is never going to go away because you know exactly what to do. And you know, if you're not doing it, it's not going to come. So you're going to have to put those standards in place for yourself. So seeing $100,000 in a day or $200,000 in a day, you know exactly how to replicate it because you put the actual effort to do it. It's not something that came by accident. So if next week I tell myself, today I want to make $200,000 again, I know the steps that's in place. But at the same time, like, are you going to go, like, only people that really know about that specific milestone, I guess, is the people that are in my program because I do everything live, so October 13th, people know how to get to it in the course. October 13th webinar, in their head, they say October 13th webinar, the day Ruby made $200,000 off of the Dow Jones stock index, but at the same time, it's like, I can do it again if I want to. Do I really want to? Or, it's just a whole thing. I had to really understand it too, because a lot of times when you reach a certain point, you realize that the work that you're putting in isn't really changing nothing. Like you're not genuinely making an effort to change things around you. It's really no point. So,
but you are doing that, right? So you should feel proud of yourself. I was talking to Matty J, the dude from Clubhouse. Yeah, so he was on the podcast and everything, and we were talking about passive impact. People talk about passive income a lot and all that, 7 and 8 sources of income, all that stuff. But I think, as you mentioned before, once you get to the level once you get to the number that you've always wanted to get to, everything else, you realize how much it doesn't really matter. And then everything else is what's unlocked. Like other things begin to fill you up, right? So he was mentioning how passive impact is what he's chasing. So he can make the money, he could do what he got to do. But at the same time, if people around him are struggling, or if he's not able to replicate that for people who want to learn how he got to where he got to, it's not as fulfilling. So it seems like you're doing that with your program. 7,000 people is a lot. And you mentioned $100,000 people are making here and there. That's not anything, to downplay at all. So I think you should be proud of yourself. And as long as you're continuing to plant those seeds in other people, that legacy that you're going to build for yourself is going to be, way more vast than what money can do, than what money can kind of, I don't know, I guess explain who you are.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, that's one thing that like push it. That's why I love Lavish Life Academy so much, because I have that interaction that I always wanted. Like when I started my YouTube channel, it was to help people. The Money Monday series was to be able to help people. The YouTube channel in general, like the college experience, like vlogging, was because I never had an older sibling to show me what college was in America. My parents didn't even have like the experiences themselves. So it was more so a thing where I wanted to make sure that I can be that person for other people, and seeing that value come back with Lavish Life Academy and people, saying that, I was able to feed my daughter this week. I, was able to get the funds to send my child to America from this third world country, or, you know what I mean? So that's a different type of impact than you making $500,000 in a month, or $200,000 in a day. So that's the type of thing that I personally am longing for overall, and what I'm able to do for people moving forward altogether.
Yeah. That's amazing. Can you just talk briefly about your experience being, obviously, you mentioned 23 now, right? 23, a Black woman in the business world, doing your thing, killing it. But just talk about what that experience has been like. I'd imagine there's a lot of ups where you're feeling like, damn, I got the world on my shoulders and people are looking up to me and I'm doing my thing and I'm setting, a strong example for people to follow. I'd also imagine that, like anything else, there's also some downs where you feel discouraged or where overwhelmed, wherever the case may be. So what's been balancing that like, and how do you, free yourself when you're in like slumps?
Yeah, so that's definitely that's a part that people oftentimes forget. Like we see the highs, we see the numbers, but like at the end of the day, how is the person really doing type of thing? I think with me, it's definitely been growing pains. I feel like because I have so many people counting on me, it becomes a difficult thing for me to understand that I have to also count on myself too. I'm like that person for so many people that I have to make sure that I'm on point 24/7, and that I'm actually pulling through and giving the value that they want. So in my program, I have to give signals. So I teach people how to trade, and I also give them the trade ideas that I personally trade myself. So, for example, today I woke up this morning and I was able to make 1,450 pips off of the Dow Jones Stock Index, right? So people that know how to trade know that that amount of pips is a lot of money for everyone, so if I know that I can do this today and people are making money or doing this today, I have to replicate it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't just do it every now and then type of thing. People are genuinely using that as their like livelihood at this point. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing that, but I also have to make sure that people understand at the end of the day, I'm still human, like I'm not a robot. I'm doing the best I can. And there's a lot of people in the program. And one thing that people forget to realize as well, like the program is a mentorship, like people forget a lot of the times, especially when it comes to Black women or Black people in general, that, you won't do what you're doing. Like you won't give that negative review, or you won't give that, sly comment, or you won't go out of your way to make somebody feel bad about something when it's a multi-million dollar business that you don't know. But my multi-million dollar business, you're going to do it too because you know me, or because I look like you, or because I'm in a place where, it could be you, but it's not. It almost brings it like down to the floor type of thing. Like I'm with you guys, which I want to be, but at the same time, this is a business, so people sometimes in like customer service email, like the people that I'll bring on staff, they're like, wow, I've never worked with people that are so rude in the emails. Like I've worked with so many different businesses and I've never gotten emails like this where there's terms and services or terms and conditions in place or a refund policy in place that people just think that they're above because I'm 23, Black, and a female. So at the end of the day, there's stuff in place that has to be done. And we can't cut corners for everyone just because you look like me, So that's definitely one thing that I struggled with a lot, with just like holding my ground and people like making sure that people understand that at the end of the day, this is still a business. This is something that you signed up for. This is something that you paid for. I can't give you whatever it is that you want because that's not what you paid for, so. And I'm also a very empathetic person. And I think that's one thing that messed with me because I'm a very like emotional person. I'm like very loving. Like I really genuinely want people to succeed in life. And I think people take advantage of that a lot because I'm very accessible. So we have a group chat and I'm in the group chat literally all day. I don't have anyone talking for me. I do all my live webinars myself. And people forget that at the end of the day, like I am running a 7,000 member program. Like the next person is not going to do this at all. So that's definitely one thing. Another thing is just the hiring aspect. I know I talked about this before, but hiring people that are in a place to really lead and succeed without the help of me. So I think that a lot of times I'll bring people on my team and I would have to walk them through every step of the way. And it's almost a thing where I'm not going to do it unless Ruby says that I should do it. And at the end of the day, if I can do it myself, I would have just done it myself. So there was a lot of times where I would delegate, and because it's just too much of a back and forth before it gets done, I'll spend the time doing it myself. So I had to realize that I can't continue to do that because at the end of the day, my main focus should be on what I need to do. Everything else should be delegated, and I just have to find the right people to delegate it to. And then just understanding like the levels of or the structure of business when it comes to employees or just having people on your team. I was always just the, not only the CEO, but also the manager, HR, director of operations. I have people that are helping me, but I was too much of that forefront along with running the actual business. I'm the brains of everything. I'm constantly thinking. I'm constantly trying to make decisions. And if I'm the only person making decisions, at the end of the day, what's the point of being able to delegate, So that was definitely another thing that I had to learn overall. But a lot of it is really just being able to be in a place to understand what has to be done differently. Because if you're the only person thinking or making those changes, you won't know until you find out. So that was a huge thing for me as well. Just having like that type of mentorship, I would say, or just having something to lean on that's not just myself and, just me figuring out what I figure out. And that's the end all be all. But it really came down to me understanding that just because I'm 23 and, it doesn't mean that I have to hire people that are younger than me all the time or like around my same, like around the age that I'm at right now. Once I figured that out, I made an active effort to try. I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it yet, but that's like a goal to be able to bring people on salary that's really like experts at what they do, so I don't have to worry about educating and training and teaching, and they can actually teach me stuff that I don't know and bring actual ideas that are different and things of that sort.
Exactly. And vice versa, because I'm sure, I mean, your experience is vast as well. Yeah, you keep mentioning 23, but there are some people who haven't accomplished, who are experienced and can add value to your business, but who haven't accomplished what you've accomplished in, in their lives. So I think that at that point, you'd be paying for people to help you grow your business, to help take things off your plate, but also for the mentorship as well. That's a very, very good investment. I know we talked about it before. I have to introduce you to some folks, but I think that's dope. And it's cool. It's cool that you identified that, right? Like some people are struggling or trying to figure out how they could get from point A to point B, but they don't know what they lack, right? They don't know, or they're not receptive to what they need to be able to get to the next level. So at least I think that's more than half the battle. And then as you continue to be intentional about the energy you put out, I'm pretty sure you're going to find some people that make sense for you and your business.
Thank you. Hopefully. Hopefully. But thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so we're almost done. There's two more sections. One is best practices section. So it's pretty much like the key takeaways that the audience that's listening can kind of use to build what they're building immediately. So just wanted to tap you for a couple of answers to these questions. So what are some actionable steps that the listeners can take if they're trying to identify opportunities in the digital space and build a business? So, I mean, this is obviously stemming from what's happening with COVID, people, being unemployed, people trying to get resourceful and figure out what makes sense for them to even jump into. You were able to jump into the YouTube stuff early. You were able to, leverage everything to build the planner situation and do all that stuff and build digital businesses at a good time. So if someone was listening to this and was trying to figure out how they wanted to identify an opportunity, do you have any advice for them in their process?
I don't want to say I disagree, but I think that it really comes down to perspective. I don't think that anything's ever a good time until after the time and you look back and say, okay, that was a good time. Anytime you're doing something, you are trying to take an initiative based on whatever is going on. When I started my YouTube channel, no one was on YouTube. Now everybody's on YouTube. So I think that when it comes to like good timing and anything of that sort, it really just comes down to you just doing it. I feel like the biggest step is the first step in anything, because I wanted to start a YouTube channel back in high school and my mom was like, you're not doing that under my roof, So I started my YouTube channel when I could, when I was not under her roof, and I was able to do stuff on my own, So I started my YouTube channel where I didn't have people like following me that I personally knew. Nowadays, everyone has a YouTube channel and they're able to post about it on their stories. It's like normalized now. Even when it comes to Lavish Life Academy, there were so many other things that were against me. There's so many other huge programs that are, out right now that if I looked at them and said, okay, they're already doing it. There's already so many people that have a negative connotation towards what I'm about to start a whole business doing. I would have never gotten to the place that I'm at now. So I really think it comes down to really understanding what it is that you want to do and being confident enough to do it. And then also educating yourself, because when it comes to anything, and this is why I got featured on Business Insider a couple of months ago when it came to my own analytics with YouTube, even though I'm not as active as I used to be, but I'm one of the highest paid YouTubers in general when it comes to CPM, because I would know how to leverage whatever it is that I'm doing. So you're not going to know what to do when it comes to stuff like this if you don't learn it. So I think the biggest thing is to understand how you can benefit off of every single thing that you have going on, and understanding that even though you might see it as a negative, there is a positive that can come out of it. And a lot of times people forget that there is a positive that comes out of every single situation. And when it comes to YouTube, where me being a Black woman, 23, I was able to leverage all of those different aspects because I know the benefits that come from all those different aspects. So I think it really comes down to taking that first step, educating yourself, and trying to just be the best that you can be at that specific thing without worrying about everything else around it. Because, Analysis paralysis is one thing, but comparing yourself is literally the thief of all joy. Like comparing yourself and seeing what other people are doing and saying that you can't get there because they're already doing this and this and this, or they have the upper leg, they have this connection. Worry about what you have for yourself first and how you can benefit off of that before looking at everybody else. Those are my top three.
What about building a strong brand? So obviously, like we mentioned before, your community seems to rock with you very, very heavy, where you could say, I'm going to go sell soap tomorrow and you probably make $500,000. So it's like, are there any keys to brand building that you want to impart with the people listening?
I would say that it's important to give value. I think that with me, because most of my businesses had value behind it and had a reason for them to benefit off of whatever it is that I'm doing, that's the reason why they're following. Like even when it comes to my Instagram, I gained like 10,000 followers in the past 2 months. Haven't posted really any pictures or anything like that. I just show my day-to-day life on Instagram stories, like behind the scenes of my businesses and stuff like that. But people see value in that. So you have to really understand what value you can bring to the world and capitalize off of it as best as you can. And then don't forget to strategize also. I feel like strategy is definitely key. Understanding what steps you need to get to the specific goal you're trying to get to. I'm a big planner. That's why I created my planner line. But I always would have goals and have 3 steps to actually get to the goal and actually have dates assigned to it. So it's one thing to have a goal. It's one thing to have a plan for it. And there's another thing to actually start doing it. And a lot of times people, especially when it comes to like New Year's goals and stuff like that, your 2019 goal becomes your 2020 goal, becomes your 2021 goal, because you never put a plan in place that actually has dates. You have the whole year to complete a goal, and then next thing you know, it's December 15th, and you look back and say, oh, shoot, I had the whole year and I'm just thinking about this now. So I think it really comes down to seeing what you want your brand to look like overall and actually making a plan to actually get there.
Yes, that's all good information. And then some productivity hacks. So obviously you've done a lot. You've been able to maintain efficiency through all the different things you've had to navigate. So are there any productivity hacks that you've learned to help make your marketing more impactful?
I don't think I have an answer for the marketing aspects for like productivity in relation to marketing, but I think when it comes to like just day-to-day life and getting things done, it really comes down to, if you can't hold yourself accountable, try and make somebody else hold you accountable. I think that I've been able to see like the most success once I had somebody working with me at my office. I used to have just like solely virtual help, like virtual assistants, virtual employees, stuff like that. But once I had somebody that would really sit there and like look at me, okay, Ruby, get off your phone. Okay, Ruby, turn off Clubhouse. I don't even want to hear it no more. You know what I mean? Like that's when it actually becomes a thing where, that person's telling you to stop when you can't stop for yourself. Because you can use every app, every, tool in the books, but sometimes you need somebody to actually like slap your hand and tell you to stop. So that's definitely one thing that's helped me. But besides that, I think calendar blocking has definitely helped when it comes to like productivity and managing my time overall. And then that's really it. I think managing time based on calendar blocking and having accountability partners.
And what have you learned about yourself from this journey? I mean, I know you mentioned a lot, but if there's one thing that you could take away from who you are based on what you had to endure and how you were able to evolve through this process, what would it be?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I had to learn about myself is to remove all the limiting beliefs. I feel like a lot of times when you start something, you start hearing voices in the back of your head or voices outside of your head or voices from friends and family that say that you can't do something. And I had to really understand that you really can do whatever it is that you want in this world as long as you put an actionable plan behind it and it's actually a goal that you can do. I think that one of the things that my parents would say to me all the time when I was in like elementary school, when it came to grades, was like, if there's a scale of 1 to 100 and somebody's out there getting 100, that person doesn't have 2 heads. And in my head, I'm like, what? You got something there. Like that actually makes sense. Like at the end of the day, we all have blood running through our veins. We all have the same, we might not have the same circumstances, but we still have opportunity for another day to get to that specific goal. And I think that's one thing that I had to really understand as well growing up, that I might not come from the best background, or I might not have every single thing that I wanted, but I have the opportunity to get it if I want to, and I put a plan behind it. So one thing I don't do, and I don't let people that are around me do, is to have limiting beliefs or have excuses. At the end of the day, you have to hold yourself accountable. If I do something wrong, if I'm, late to something, I'm never pointing my fingers. If I can't pull through on something that's even teamwork related, that's my fault. You know what I mean? Because there's so many different things that could have been done differently. That's one thing that I had to teach my interns that were working with me this semester, that, it doesn't matter if it's a group work or, two people that are working on something. If it's not done by the date that it's due, you personally could have done something differently to make sure that it was done. So it doesn't matter if the person didn't do it, whatever the case may be, you personally could have figured out a different plan to get to the destination. You just didn't do it. So I think a huge thing is just understanding that there's, a whole bunch of different roads to success. There's so many different ways to get there. You just have to make sure that you're getting there.
Yeah, I like that so much. You said you don't let people around you who have limiting beliefs. I love that. I love that because it really just drowns your energy, or drains your energy, I should say, and it makes it harder to fill your cup. So I think it's important to surround yourself with like-minded individuals because they keep you sharp. So I like that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so a couple of rapid fire questions. Just first thing that comes to mind, try to spit it out.
I'm a thinker.
No problem.
Right.
If you have to think, it's okay. Yeah, but the first question is, what's one fun fact about yourself?
All right. That's what I'm saying. I don't like this. All right.
You can't say basketball. That's too obvious.
I then said everything about myself. I even told you I speak Chinese. I like to travel by myself.
Oh, okay. Okay, why is that? Actually, I think I know the reason why, but tell us why that is.
Because different energies can be draining, and sometimes you just need time to think by yourself.
I like that. What's one book, podcast, or like piece of content that's helped you along your journey?
I would say a person. I would say Gary Vee. I know there's like a lot of negative connotations towards him and his
I love him.
But I think he's definitely somebody that has pushed me a lot to go for different things and just to be somebody that is a learner of life, or someone that wants to just actually get the information to see what they can do with it. So I would say anything that Gary Vee does.
I agree. I think people get too lost in how the message is delivered that they forget. They just completely miss the message. And it's like, we can't be picky in our interpretation. We got to be able to take the gems, no matter how it's delivered, and run with it to be able to evolve. So I like that. What's the best piece of life advice you've been given so far?
Oh, damn. How are you going to make these type of questions rapid fire? What the hell? I thought you were going to say, what's your favorite color? How old are you? No.
Emily did not give you the heads up.
No, I didn't. Oh, actually, she did. I just didn't. That's my fault. I wouldn't say it's advice, but it's like a scripture that I go by. So my only tattoo is Psalm 46:5, and it says, God is within her, she will not fail. And I feel like the way that you interpret that is based on your own actual interpretation. So I think that it doesn't matter what it is that I'm going to do, I'm going to find success in it. Whether it is something that I personally don't see, face-to-face value, something that I might realize in the long run. I got the tattoo after I tore my ACL multiple times, and every single time I would do it, I'm like, damn, like, what's the chances that I'm the person that's tearing my ACL again and having to do 8 months of recovery, so on and so forth. But there's so many positives that come from every single situation. And I think that's one thing that I had to really learn based off of that as a whole.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. If you could choose one person to be your mentor, who would it be? And I know you mentioned Gary Vee. You can say that if you wanted him to be your mentor, but I have a feeling it might be somebody else.
I would say Michelle Obama.
Okay.
I genuinely love that woman. And I think that she has a lot of different values that align with the way that I think overall. And just being able to have conversations with her on a consistent basis can definitely, I think, will change my life completely. But I'll take the value that I can get on the internet for now.
Okay. Hopefully she's listening to this podcast and maybe she'll reach out to you directly. So we'll make sure that we get in contact with her. Okay. And then the last question, who's on your board of directors? And I like to ask this question because everyone is a CEO of their life, right? And companies, in order to be successful, they have influential people on their board to be able to steer them in the right direction. So who's on that board for you?
Is this a serious?
Oh, so yeah, so it could be your family, it could be business advisors, a coach, therapist. Like, people just give different answers. I've heard so many different answers. So you could literally, anyone who motivates you, keeps you on track, is aligned with your core values, all of that.
So this is definitely something that I thought you were being funny because I talked about this in the clubhouse. I'm like, what the hell? What kind of question
Nah,
is this?
nah, I ask everybody this question.
So personally, right now, like as I mentioned this earlier on, that I'm a very independent person. I don't really ask for help a lot. I've never had a mentor per se. I've invested in like educational platforms and stuff like that, but I genuinely don't have anybody that I talk to about my businesses. I really just learn what I have to learn and do it. So I would say that my answer to this is God giving me the strength to be able to do what I'm doing right now. So I'm gonna give him the credit, but I really don't talk to my family about business or my friends about business. I make all my decisions by myself. And then everybody else that is around me that are in my business, I'm delegating. So I don't really have that upper hand that's telling me what to do, if that makes sense. So as of right now, I don't really have a specific answer besides just like luck or God's grace and God's favor. But hopefully, this time next year, I'll have a different answer and I'll have someone that's actually directing me towards the different things that I'm trying to do.
Yeah, no, well, definitely. I got two people in mind. I forgot to introduce you, but I got you because it's been amazing that you've been able to accomplish all this without that support. So I can only imagine where you'd build your businesses and, even just build yourself too if you had that support, people who are matching your energy. So I like that. And again, congrats. Thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you. I'm
So
happy that I was a chosen one.
yeah, it's gonna be a fire season. So yeah, I'm definitely happy to have you. And if you could just like shout out anything that you want to plug. I know knowing you probably have a book on the way or something, or a soap company. So just like whatever you want to plug, just say it right now so people can come follow you.
You guys can just follow me on Instagram. I'm not really that much of a plugger. You guys can follow me on Instagram and watch my stories. That's it.
Where can
At Lavish Ruby. And if you guys want to get some motivational content at Lavish Life Academy, we post a lot about financial education, just like all things wealth education in general on our page. 2 times a day, 12 and 6 p.m. You'll see a different post. We have a lot of great content on there all together right now.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much for tuning into today's episode. We hope you found immense value in the discussion, but more importantly, we hope you were left with some practical gems that you can use to power your hustle immediately. For episode notes, for resource lists and cheat sheets, please visit Clout101.com. And to stay up to date on all things Clout101, please follow us on Instagram at Clout101MKTG. Lastly, it would mean the world to us if you left a rating on whichever platform you listen with, whether it's Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. It helps us better understand how to serve you and also what to improve on episode to episode. I'm Idia Ogala signing out. Stay safe, blessed, and encouraged.